I'm gonna dip deep into the hot water. So so you are known to be very successful in transforming companies, and if you are to come up with few initial thoughts about where to start whenever you transform a company, what would that be?
I would say you have to start up with your team. It's the management team. I have the fortune of turning around 4 or 5 companies. And the most important things is you because you normally come on outside. So immediately you are technically unliked. So you are not one of us. And therefore, you're looked at with suspicion. And you need to buy that group to come with you. Obviously, you must understand, don't touch anything and change it until after, I would say, 90 days, 3 months. You need 3 months to understand the organization, who's who, understand if you're a manufacturing company, and my own experience in manufacturing, but I don't think it's any different. In manufacturing cases, you need also to understand the manufacturing process, not as a specific special engineer in the plant, but to understand the basics, where the feed comes from, where the product goes, the cash flow, the net income, and all these things. And the more within, you need to get some good data from the team. The team normally, Habibi, Khalid, they know there is a problem. Now, I never been in any of these companies where I was in charge and made turnaround that the team did not know. Okay, some members of the team might like not to admit they know, some may be conflicted, some even could be benefiting from the status quo. And frankly, some of it could be unethical stuff. So once you bring that team, you start to get the real data. And I would say most of the time, you need to get some help from a special consultant to bring you the best practices for that industry. But never ever rely on the consultant to do the work for you. The consultant should be just advising you. And during that phase of collecting the data and comparing you to the best and shows you the delta, where is the gap between you and the rest of the industry in your area, in your field, let's say it's in steel or aluminum or chemical or whatever, then you need to appear in more office and staff it with your best people, and must be full-time, that they work with the consultant and collect the data and bring the data. And then you need to sit with the team and say, okay, guys, ladies, this is the facts. We might not like it, might look ugly, but these are the facts. And then you have also to be, unfortunately, sometimes you have to be ruthless, because some of the team member might tell you in your face, we support, we do anything, but you realize later, these individuals are really not supporting and dragging the process, actually. So you have to have the courage to basically terminate. You reach a point where you say, no, you go. That's it. And bring somebody new who you trust and can fit and carry the mission. And it's unfortunately most it would involve layoffs, and sometimes, like in Hadid case, massive layoffs, like 57% of the workforce. It sadly would involve some Saudis, but what can you do? You have, God forbid, a cancer in the hand, you cut your hand to save your body. There is no business is business. That's the way it is. And you must communicate during the start, when you start the process. You must communicate to the company. We used to do it in town halls. We call town halls meetings. Explain to the people why. If somebody doesn't believe it, this is an ethical statement. We're losing $1 billion plus. We like it or not, the bottom line is red and very red. And nobody is gonna pay money for us if we don't save money from our own operation. So we either do it or we'll be dead. So there is no option. And people understand that. People really do understand that. Never underestimate them. And then you have to move on and make your cuts, especially in the workforce where it's the most painful. Shutting down plants, shutting down assets, moving things is not a painful exercise. Maybe painful in the balance sheet, but not in the workforce. So you must move and move fast. And I always say speed is more important than perfection. If the study tell you you have 30% over staff, I would go for 40% cut. Because you might ask why. It's for a simple reason. You never want to shake the organization twice. If you do an overcut, you realize in a few months you went overboard. And you can correct that quickly by hiring good people or even rehiring from the people if they are good enough. Normally you'll find out what you laid off mostly not that. And people actually glad you did because nobody in the previous administration dared to take that painful decision. So then you come back. And I always advise people who ask me about it in private session, if you're not going for 30% plus, don't bother. It's not worth it. Because attrition, stop hiring will solve your problem. But if the situation massive, and unfortunately when companies go from profitability to billions of reals or dollars losses, the situation is in dire strait. You must take massive. And this is the way. But there are stages, Khalid, I would recommend. What always I've seen done, and I've done myself many times, is a classical business school case. First, you look at your company. Are we running a plant efficiently? Not efficiently? Are we overstaffed? And all these things. And then you fix that. Then you look at the problem. Is the problem solved? The problem probably not. Then you look at your debt situation. Okay, our debt short term, we can't breathe like that because cash is short. So you go to the banks and you say, guys, we love you, but we don't love you a lot. So we're gonna have to extend the debt, or we might have to ask for a haircut. Both are, haircut is more painful. Extending the debt is maybe an easier option. But then, and then you look, did that solve the problem? Then you realize maybe that didn't solve the problem. So then you go and you say like, you do your capital structure. You look at what's your company structure. What assets you can really, what you consider not core business. Most companies always have assets that are not core business. So it's like looking at your kids, 5 or 6 of them, and saying, well, look, situation is bad, I can't feed you all, we're gonna let one of you go. I love you all, but you and you, I don't really love you that much like the others. So I'm gonna keep the others, and the other 2 are gonna go. It's like that, believe me, because you're shedding your assets away. These are like babies in the company, these plants, these people work there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so that's the case, you have to do. And that normally will save the day. Otherwise, the situation is hopeless. But I never seen it. With this structural approach, it will always be solved at the end. Most of the time, I was like, we did it without do shedding assets. In case of Tasneer, we have to do shed assets. Done that. So I'll try to give you a
perfect. There's a follow-up question, which is, if you are to pinpoint the main challenges, 2 or 3 main challenges whenever you are transforming a company, what would they be?
Biggest is people accepting surplus in other people. Change of the situation. People always like the status quo. We were happy before. Yeah, you were happy, but you did not see the number. You will be surprised. Most companies don't share some of the account number with all employees. They think the company is doing good, everything is hunky-dory, we're all fine, you love me, I love you. But you realize in the net income statement and the balance sheet, things are really not fine. Things are actually ugly. And company cannot be sustained. So really the most important is, the most difficult is getting people to see that. But people will do it. So you have to do like town hall and you present the numbers. The numbers are the business of language. Numbers don't lie. Anybody you say, this is the auditor statement, it's not mine, it's the auditor. It's the external auditor. It's EY, it's KPMG, it's whoever. This is how we look, guys, in the outside world. We don't look good, we're not pretty at all. And so the biggest is trying to get the people to that. And then the most important is also within the management, especially the people, the C-suite. Because a lot of these C-suite people, Some see it, this guy come to change things, we mean we are a failure before, so they resist that. Some are actually threatening their status quo. Because you came, you're going to cut their privileges, you're going to do things, you're going to resize their organization. From being the king of the hill, now you're going to be the prince of the hill, and the hill is going to get smaller. So instead of having 1,000 people reporting to you, you might end up with 300 or 200, if ever you stay in the job, because you might be one of the C-suite be surplus or replaced. So this is the most difficult, is the people side, in my humble opinion.
Okay. How do you describe your leadership style?
I would say it's more of a coaching and more of a democratic. I am not controlled. I hate micromanagement. I allow people to make mistakes. If you make a mistake in the pursuit of the mission with good intention, I would say, well done job. We don't learn as human from our success. I believe success is the worst enemy, and success is its own worst enemy. We always learn from our failures. We always learn the hard way. We like it or not. And therefore, you must tolerate. So I find myself the best is coaching. So when I personally involved change company, I made it, it's you guys change the company. You lead it. You tell them, you go out and you lead these things. And if you don't do it, a lot of them, they'll go jump happy. But some related ones said, look, it's very simply, shape up or ship out. It's no other way. If you don't come make it, I'm sure in the world you can find somebody, he or she can make it. So this is the key, and you have to be blunt or heartless in a way, but human in the other way. I can tell you, I personally did lots of these things, and I swear to God, Khalid, my wife will tell you, I had sleepless night. I always thought, my God, what happened to those people, families, kids, they cut their living. It's painful, but when you are in business, you must not get that hard in the situation. The head must be the master, because there is no room. There's no room for that.
Speaking of hiring leaders, what are the attributes that you look for? Technical, personal?
The biggest thing I want is to get someone who's better than me. I don't want a yes man or woman, because they will not add value to me. They will not give me anything. The most successful leader I've seen in my career from America, I managed companies in America, I managed in Europe, I managed in Saudi Arabia, are the one who hire smart, but more than smart, ethical. A smart man who's not ethical will drive you to bankruptcy. So you must do that, and do people who are actually better than you, smarter than you. There is no harm, because no one knows it all in this world. Whatever you're smart, somebody out there is smarter than you. So you might get your ego out of the picture in the closet and be realistic and hire smart, ethical, and people who really add value and must be different than you. Like say, if you're engineer finance, if the situation depends, you might need somebody HR kind, you might need somebody, different in the business than you, legal side, somebody. So you must have diversity in the team. So that is important, because if you bring all the same, you end up with herd mentality. And herd mentality is not good for anybody. You need people to question. You don't need people to say everything is yes, yes. No, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I once did, to give you a short story, back in 2000, SABIC operated island operation, they call it. You have like 20, 30 companies. Each company is standalone. HR, finance, IT, everything. Everything. And the president is the king of that hill. And I was one of those presidents. I was president of Sadaf, I was president of Hadid, so I was king of these hills. And so then we decided in SABIC that we're going to create shared services, and we're going to strip all these 30 plus companies globally, not only in Saudi Arabia, in America, Europe, Australia, China. We're going to strip them of all the back office operation, which meant HR, finance, accounting, projects, warehouse, procurement, legal, all the stuff. The only thing are going to be left in the plant are the operation, the people who operate the plant, and the maintenance, and maybe day-to-day engineering. Anything that is classified as service or to be shared, even if it's not service, will move to this shared service organization. So, of course, you can imagine there is a huge resistance because nobody wants to lose those 30 CEOs, 30 presidents, used to call them. So I had a meeting in Jubail, bringing the 30 people. And I laid the ground, told them whatever it is. And everybody said, yeah, Muhammad, we're with you 100%. A lot of them are my friends, my colleagues. We're working all in Jubail together. And I said, you know what, guys, I love to hear that. You're the best. But I want to tell you, you're lying. You're not. I'm coming here to strip your power. I'm coming here to cut it. But I can tell you, you're going to do it or something is going to happen. There is no way around this here. We're going to do it. And you know the numbers. We know. In the old 70s and 80s and 90s, we are fat and happy. And we have a lot of money and competition is not as stiff. But 2000 comes and beyond, competition with China and India entered, and America later came with shale gas, became very stiff. So we had to do that. So you have to do these things. It's not pleasure, but it has to be done.
Who do you consider, I mean, I'm sure you have many, but one mentor that sort of helped you in becoming who you are and why?
I would say, to be honest, like 3 phases. First phase, when I was young, in the east of Saudi Arabia, in a town called Anats or Anak, my uncle, we are tribal families, Bedouin. He was the chief of a branch. The tribe is, Al-Khaldi is huge. So he was just our branch. He was a chief. And all the Bedouin chiefs came and met. And I was, at that time, by the way, there were no Indians. I was the Indian of the house. I was the guy who served coffee, tea. At that time, the coffee pot is Raslan, brass, you know. So you have to serve coffee and tea. And in that process, actually, it's beneficial because you listen. And you see how people react, and you study the situation. And my uncle was a great man, always gave me the time to ask and to talk. So I built that kind of character. When I went to America, learned in school, first University of Denver, then Princeton, then Stanford, then worked with Shell, then worked with an American gentleman, Mike Darcy. And Mike was a great boss.
What are your expectations for this industry?
Actually very positive. You know, the chemical industry is the backbone of all things we see around us. As we sit here, everything, thoughts, foods, our bodies are made of chemicals, mostly water and some other minerals. So it's an industry that needed forever, is not going to disappear. It's an industry that evolving and being more environmental friendly, better, minimizing carbon footprint, doing a lot of good things in the society. And it's as industry creates problem, industry will solve the problem. So it's move in that direction. I think it's a very wealth generating industry for a country, and that's why a lot of countries have like the chemical industry, or industry in general, but especially the chemical industry, because chemical industry is one of the highest paying industries for people, salaries and stuff, below the oil industry. But it creates huge amount of jobs. It creates opportunities. You know, if you start from polyethylene, ethylene, you end up with Tide used to wash your clothes. It's actually the heart of the molecule is ethylene, which probably made in Jubail or somewhere. Oh. So, you know, it's that kind. So when you look at that chain, you start down, and that each part has people and generate wealth and makes money. So it creates a lot of positive things in society. And Saudi Arabia today is about 9% of world petchem production. Jubail alone is the largest city in the face of the earth producing chemicals, producing almost 7% of all petchem production comes from one city. So it's a massive, and it's a wealth generator. It's now almost in hundreds of billions. So yeah, it's a very, very rewarding industry, and it's wanted industry. People want it, countries want it for their own. They want to promote their society.
Sure. Whenever there's talk about petrochemicals, there's also the talk about how harmful it is for the environment. So
sure.
How do you what are your views on this?
I agree. I mean, it's like the car. If we drive it wisely and things, it will be okay. If you go crazy with the car, you're gonna have an accident, kill yourself or kill somebody, God forbid. So the chemical industry is like that. If you do it and do it right, you are okay. You're gonna have some, because there is no free lunch in the world, let's face it. However, you are gonna be nice and you're gonna solve the problem. Today, the chemical industry is slowly solving most of the problem. Like example, we in Tasneem, we take car batteries, your car battery, acid lit. You know that when you roll it away, we end up with it. We have a huge plant outside in Sana'a Al-Ula in Kharj in Riyadh, and we produce 2 million car batteries. Saudi Arabia has no lead. We have no lead smelter. We don't buy lead from outside, rasas. Actually, we get it, we recycle it from the used batteries. We recover the lead, then we recover the plastic, which is polypropylene. Then we take the plastic and recycle it and make it into a new battery with the lead. And we take the acid, the sulfuric acid, and make sulfate from it, which goes into fertilizer and glass making and all that. So nothing goes to waste. So that's the ultimate case. The industry which is working today is basically recycling. When originally started with incineration. Incinerators are good and bad because they produce a lot of gases, but they generate energy and they save power and so on. But now the industry going to recycling, and if you can't recycle, you can really also incinerate part of it in a very wise way, where you have scrubbers or smoke or anything doesn't go out, gases don't go out. So the industry is responding extremely well. Of course, like anything else, it will take some time. But with modern technology today we see and things happening, it's going a lot faster. It's going a lot faster than what we used to see 30 years ago, what was happening. It's like where I came from. By the way, I started my career in the nuclear industry, and I worked in nuclear reactors in the States. Nuclear reactor is a good machine if you treat it right. It's a deadly machine if you don't. So if you do things the right way, like when nuclear engineers enter the reactors, you are measured your radiation before, and then you measure after to make sure nobody gets radiated. If you don't do the proper protection on you, you don't do more things, you will be radiated. And God forbid, you're gonna get sick and so on, and worse, to die. So everything else done properly, then things are okay. People operate nuclear plants all over the world, they generate power, they do things, no issue, no issue.
Each and every one of us has a COVID-19 story, successful and unsuccessful. What can you share with us on this?
I have few, but the most one is really when it happened. First of all, I did not believe it's gonna be happening. I thought, another scare, another things. And then when the things got worse and people start to panic, and I came actually that time I was in a board meeting in Australia, in Perth, in Australia. Came through Bahrain and landed in Riyadh 8th of March, just a few days before they closed. So I was just lucky to come in. So when I came in, for a while it was like a denial stage. No, this cannot be true. So something is going to change. Then you realize it's not going to be that. When you start to worry, I know health, our family and the country is good and all. So you start to worry about the chemical plants out in Jubail and Yamba. And the scary to us is if you have the shift has worker like 8, 9, 10. It came time when one tested positive, you have to take the whole shift out. If you take the whole shift out, then who's going to operate the plant? Then you have to break the other shift into a fourth shift. So you start from working 8 hours a day, you're going to work 12 hours a day. So we have to activate our emergency command, which we planned before, luckily, for situation like during the Gulf War we went through, where our command post activated day and night, managing all the activities, both to safety of the plants, upland operation, and safety of people around the plants. So the second part is every night I was calling the command center in Jubail and Yamba. It was the main one in Jubail, so I called Jubail. Called Jubail to see what the situation, because we were coming close that you have nobody, so you're going to have to shut down your plants. And the other scare is when you close all access, Luckily, the government, wise enough, never closed the ports, because we live and die by the ports. All Saudi production of like 120 million tons of chemicals goes through either the port of Jubail, Yanbu, Dammam, or Jeddah. That's it. So luckily we have that, and we never reached that situation. But that's really the story that the world was scary.
During that time, did you feel that this is going to be short term, long term? What you guys think?
I was one of the worst scenarios. I thought it was a short time. I thought it was going to be a short time, and I never also thought this thing is going to be so global.
Wow.
I think the media, unfortunately, played part of it. Part of it got exaggerated, to be honest with you. But no, I honestly never thought it would go that long. We went through the Gulf War. I was a young engineer that I'm running a command center at night in Jubail. And we had few rockets fired at us, but most Riyadh got worse of it. Surprisingly, Jubail and Ras Al Noura, where the oil and chemical, got hardly any. But we were running that, and we hear the news quickly, or command post talk to the government command post, and they say there is something coming. And so we start to make sure everybody is safe inside, and make sure all the fire brigade and everybody was ready. Here it was like a similar case, but you don't know the enemy. There is no one to call to tell you a rocket coming. You don't know. You know what's going to hit you.
It could be next to you.
Exactly, it could be next to you. You don't know.
Going back to the petrochemical industry,
yes.
What are your sort of views on the mergers and acquisitions in this industry?
I'm one of those people who believe never do a merger unless there is a benefit in it. Doing mergers for the sake of merger or just to get big is a lousy business proposition, and it will destroy shareholder values. I am a believer in creating value for the shareholders. So I did a merger in Tasnia to Crystal, which was titanium dioxide business, merged it with Tronox in New York. We were the third largest company. They were the sixth or seventh, and then created the world largest. It was ideal synergetic move because we in Crystal were production pigment or product long, but feedstock short. Tronox was feedstock long and pigment short. So the combination created the world's best and most efficient company that balanced from owning its own mining all the way to producing the stuff you see in paint around you, or color in plastic, or all that. It's the pigment that gives colors to everything. So synergy is depending really on, mergers depends on the synergy's value. And in my experience, unfortunately, and I've done some of them, like I was in charge of doing SABIC acquisition GE Plastic for 11.6 billion back in 2008, is they get overestimated by the consultant or the financial houses you hire doing the merger exercise. And then you make your decision based on synergies of $1 billion or $2 billion, and at the end of the day, you end up with 300, 500, and that kills the economics of the merger. So the most important is merger must be done for a synergetic value, that you create value for the shareholder. The entity is actually better than the two combined. Unfortunately, Khalid, in my experience, and I've done few M&As for SABIC, like GE Plastic, like Huntsman in the UK, like SABIC Europe, DSM of Holland at that time, is they get overestimated. The consultants sell a lot of hype. People pump lots of billions. 75, just to give you a statistic, 75 to 80% of all merger and acquisition ends up destroying shareholder values. They were better standing alone. But mergers is a disease of CEOs. I'm one of them. It's an ego. CEOs loves to get bigger company, loves to get power, like anybody. And the bigger the CEO, the bigger his or her ego. And you have to be very careful of that. Once I was asked by a journalist, I think it was in New York, why you guys don't list SABIC in New York? I said, why? He said, it's New York City. I said, in my symbol book, No, I would list a company from a foreign place to a market like New York or London if I need access to capital, because that's a deep market. In SABIC, I can get all the capital I want, either at home or just across the border. Why do I go through the headache of listing through NYC? For what? Or the FTSEs, Dow Jones. So this is, be aware, a lot of including these listing companies out, some of it is done frankly for egos, because somebody will say, oh, I run a company listed in Dow Jones, New York Stock Exchange. So you have to be careful. Yeah. So merger for the good reason, I'm for it. Merger for the sake of merger, I'm against it.
Yeah. Speaking of this and creating shareholders' value and the whole concept of perpetual growth and CEO being worried about creating sustainable level of income and so on. I mean, everyone now know that having perpetual growth is a myth. I mean, at one point of time, everything would plateau and probably dilute shareholders' value. So, how do you actually plan for this? What measures do you take to?
First of all, growth I would prefer most of the time to be organic, if you can have access, and that's what SABIC grew from the late 70s all the way to now. And now later I did some acquisition, but actually grew and became very strong in a powerhouse by organic growth. So that's very, very well. So what you plan for it simply is you look what's missing in your portfolio and what area closer. Like if you're in chemical, you're not gonna go and make electronics. That's just way too far from your netting. I always tell people, stick to the netting. Stay within the domain you know and understand. Don't go on somebody else's business. Stay with area where you have the expertise. So you look at the portfolio, like what SABIC did, for example. Look at specialties was missing. So the way to do it is to acquire GE Plastic. Access to the European market at that time was limited. So what do? You go and buy a European company. Just to tell you a wow story. SABIC in 2005, 2004, used to sell 500,000 tons of chemical in the whole Europe. After the acquisition of DSM that became named SABIC Europe, SABIC sold over 2.5 million tons, in less than 3 years. This you will never get organically, selling to Europe from Saudi Arabia. You need the distribution channels. So if you buy even a company too expensive, it's okay in my book, because you're buying distribution channels. And that's what's done. So people doing that, that's what you need to do. Look at your portfolio and look what's missing. And you should do it that way. Don't duplicate what you have.
Sure.
Now things are more difficult to duplicate what you have, because you have the FTC, Federal Trade Commission in America, which will give you a headache. When we did merger with Crystal and Tronox, took us 2 years to get through the process. You get the EU also, which is the anti-competition, antitrust. Things are more complicated than back 2007, 2006.
Someone who is just entering the executive level.
Study. I would say, whatever anybody can take from you, there is nothing can take from your head. No one can take education from you. So work hard. You must work harder than the guy or the girl next to you. And don't believe, like in our society, people believe in wasta. Yeah, okay, I think wasta works sometimes. It will get you there, but it will never get you so higher from there. At the end of the day, some Mutlaq or somebody discovered you and kick you out, probably. So you're only gonna get progress through education and understanding, really. It's education with skills, not education just for reading. Acquiring a skill, accountant, financial engineer, doctor, whatever. That is something. And then really you need to work hard. I remember, I came from a Bedouin family. My father died when I was a week old. I made it all myself. No wasta, nothing. I did through hard work, education and hard work. That's it. I worked in America, I stayed in America 20 years. I did it myself. So one thing I tell you, if you really work hard, you will get there. Like I was working in Jubail, and my family was there, and the young men at that time go الربيع أخذ الربيع انكشتات في البر طبعا بدو يخيمون وأدراك. And they say we go. Sometime I go, but when there's a shutdown in the plant or something, I said sorry, I cannot go. My mom, bless her soul, they get upset. And how you don't go? You're giving up on us. You're one of the family. So you must set priorities at the end of the day. Is social life is your priority, or is your career and work is your priority? You cannot have it all. You have to decide. Unfortunately, in my case, my family suffers. I became addicted to work. I became more of a workaholic. And that's something, if you ask me what I regret, is my son Hamad grew up hardly seeing him. Saw him, but didn't have that close. We do now. He's 30 years old. So, but it's that kind you lose. But I really believe, Khalid, it's education, and then work.
If someone comes to you and say, I did my studying, I'm technically sound, a little bit above my class,
sure.
And
or average,
yeah, exactly. But I'm missing one thing, which is marketing myself. How do I sell myself a little bit better?
Honestly, first of all, you need to get through the door of the business. And it's not difficult to get through the door, especially with a good education and good things. And you sell yourself, honestly, once you're inside by your hard work. You show the people what you can do. It's the commitment. It's what you can achieve versus the person next door. And you have to be patient. What I've seen recently, and especially in our society, I didn't see as much in the Western companies where I work, is we are so rushed. I'm rushed to get promoted. I'm rushed to get a bigger position. Come on, in industries, it's like the military. You need to earn your stripes. You don't become in the army an officer by joining in. Okay, maybe a college guy or something, but soldiers go in through ranks. You have to get your grade stamped. You have to move on and take it. So be patient, hard work, and continue education yourself. Getting a degree in engineering or finance, whatever the thing, is just your entry. Once you're inside, that you have to prove yourself, and don't just sit and say, "Khalas, now I'm good. I'm not going to do anything." You need to continue. And you need to have faith in the system. Most systems are fair, really, in my experience. I've seen them in different regions, Western Europe, America, and here. Most are fair. Even if some people tell you, "Oh, this is unfair." Yeah, there are pockets, but you cannot take the exception and make it the rule. Yeah, there are some difficulty, but in reality, the 80-20 rule. 80% is okay. If you're gonna go for perfection, you will never reach perfection. So that's what I would advise.
With so many female workers going into the workforce and going up the ladder, what is your personal philosophy and Tasnee's philosophy when it comes to hiring ladies, developing them all the way up to board level?
That's a great question. I'm a believer. I tried when I came from America with Al-Assaf plus so we tried to hire the Saudi lady in 2009. 1989. 1989. We got shut down. We reached and we made it so. I just want to get the story so some of the ladies entering the labor market now today, they don't feel discouraged. Things were really worse. We made it, this girl is going to have a computer. Her husband must work inside her. He will take the file and she will do the accounting entries. We will give her husband the computer and tie that computer to the mainframe. At that time, there were no internet. You have to download. You have to do hardwire connection. And go into and so there is no way you can say it's illegal. Nobody will meet her. Her husband will take file. Her husband will bring the file back. She will enter data in the computer will send to the mainframe. That's it. There's nothing. So, and that's why we said must be a wife of an employee. First one got pressure and refused. Second one got some pressure and dropped out. Third one stood up. But ultimately, the lobbying and the politics and things, and we were told to leave it for other time. So I'm so happy actually to see it finally happen. Tasneem, we started hiring female in 2016. When I came in 2015, so in my time we started hiring in 16. To be honest with you, I do not against the guys in this room. I'm one of them. They're actually better workers. Honestly, I am not trying to compliment or make any brown nosing or anything. Their productivity is actually much higher than the guys. We had a case in finance where one of the ladies came to our CFO, Fawaz, you know, and asked him how many invoice entry the boys do. She was Fawaz at the data. She was doing over 300. Fawaz didn't have the heart to tell her, because most of the average of the guys doing was 150. So, and their absenteeism rate is much lower. Their tardiness much lower. They're very detail oriented. So great. I think they just push for it, and now the door is open. I'm sure there are some resistant here and there. Not everybody is Mutlaq who's lived in America 20 years and more open-minded, things like that. But you know, now the sky's the limit, and opportunity is there. Take it. Why not?
This is a philosophical question.
No,
so if you go back in time, what would Mutlaq Al-Morished now tell himself, you know, at the day he graduated from school?
Oh, that's that question, and I always, you know, some people don't like the answer, but I will answer that always there, honestly. I should have stayed in America. Because most of my friends became big millionaires. They retired at 45. You remember .com and telecom.
Yeah.
That was the time. I was getting an offer in Stanford before I graduated, a year before I graduated. I was getting an offer to stay in Silicon Valley. Of course, I did it for my mom. She insisted. My uncle died, who's the head of the tribe, or head of the clan. So I had to come to the older boy, so I have to come back. So I did that. But that was the hardest decision to do. I was married to an American lady, have a house, a car, typical American basically, you know, no more than that. So I would say that was for me, but again, I came back. I'm glad I did at the end of the day. Home is home, ultimately. So I would say find the field, stick with it. And today we're all mobile. Nowadays, mobility was more difficult. Today people live everywhere. I'd prefer all the smart young people stay home, because that's where we don't want to drain brain. We want smart boys and girls stay at home. And therefore we'd like to get the people here. But I would say to the young girls and boys is go for your dream, do the best you can. Enjoy life also. Don't just, American, they say, Johnny, all work and no fun, become dull Johnny or boring Johnny. So have some fun in your life. Americans say, play hard and work hard. You know, because going extreme one side and also going extreme the other side is not good for anybody. So it's better to enjoy your life while you work. You know, work is not all. Unfortunately, I now philosophically say it, but unfortunately, now I try to do it, but I'm just too late now. You know, you cannot teach an old dog a new trick.
Now, mashallah, you're still young and hard. The most important question now is the Vision 2030. Yes. And how you align with it, and sort of conceptually and practically.
I think it's the first time in history in the country where we have a roadmap. You can argue, people can argue about, no, we can't achieve all of it. I'm happy even if we achieve 50%. I know we'll achieve more. But at least we have a roadmap, we have started change. All what we see happening, changing today, is a result of the vision. A lot of people staying home rather than running away, including myself, because the society became more open, the life became more interesting, the country become more tolerant and more open to both males and females, and even foreigners. So I think that we're doing our best, getting into fields to help the country, like the titanium we're doing. We're finishing titanium. We are the number 10% of world titanium is produced in Yamba. And Saudi Arabia on the map of one of the top producers of titanium. That's produce all the things for military, aircraft, satellite, rockets, whatever you want. We produce it. So we're going with the vision and we're following it. And again, I love the roadmap. It's the concept for any engineer or a science person. There is a vision and there is a roadmap how to reach the target. And the target will always be moving, of course. The target never stays constant because we live in a society, we live in a culture, industry where things always improve, and we continue to improve. But at least now we have a roadmap. And so it's great, and everybody, I believe, doing their best as much to be in line. At least we know now where we're going. Before, ask me, I was here in the 70s as a young guy in high school. Things were very open. Then came back from America, things were all closed. So now, thank God, it's open again. So that's all I can say.
What was I don't know if you announced your figures, but last year's achievements for Tasnia?
I believe really for us in Tasnia is we turned around, companies more stable. We're not worried about the survival of the corporation. We're looking at growth. We're looking at different regions of the world, North America, Asia, and here locally. We are expanding as we speak. We got some gas allocation. We are expanding in Jubail. We are doing some expansion in Yamba. We have our plant up and running in Jizan for titanium smelting. So that's for me, because the ship is stable now. And we can face the world and say, hey, we're out of the crisis. We're now back to growth mode. That's the most important thing.
We are hosted by Al-Faisal University, which is very, very hospitable. And most of the big companies, big economic groups have some sort of program to hire fresh graduates. And, So can you tell us a little bit about that?
We do normally for the business people, and we do for the engineering guys. Yeah, we do. Okay. And actually, we love the graduates from this institute.
Okay.
They're quite, really, honestly. Okay. They're quite highly qualified. And our hiring ground in the past was UPM or KFUPM. And now we have more alternative, which is very important. Actually, this institute has a very good reputation. Very good reputation. In the industry, really in the industry.